So this caught me by surprise. We've had a balance update, 1.7.3, the patch notes just dropped, and while I don't always do like recordings going through the notes and reading out what's happened, this one seems fairly large from what I can see here. Normally it's a little bit smaller, but this kind of feels more impactful than some of the other minor ones that just mostly focus on fixing bugs and some glitches here and there. This seems a bit bigger, so I don't even know if this is getting uploaded. If it is, then there must be something juicy in here that's really going to shake things up. I did take a look. They've made some changes to Mage and I think some other Skul, so let's go through real quick and see what's happening. So Mage, the amount of mana that he gains from bonking dudes has been increased. The damage of his basic attacks, damage of pretty much all of his specials, and some skills so they do not visually block enemies. That was something that does happen with Mage. He has, especially when he gets to Legendary, some of his skills become very big and flashy, especially the Meteor Strike was one that could get in the way. Same deal, so whenever he upgrades to his higher quality versions, his mana recovery rate has been increased. That's very nice. After swapping as well, just a boost to everything by the looks of it. When meditating, it's gone up a lot actually. Very nice, and I'm expecting the same thing across the board. Yep. Damage of blazing trails will now be increased once the player manages to hit a burnt enemy with fire arrow. Fair enough, fair enough. Mana recovery increased at Sage, everything's pretty much the same. The cooldown speed of Awakened has been reduced by 10 seconds, which is something that I think some people might forget that Sage has. He can activate like an ultimate mode where he just starts spamming magic and doesn't cost any MP. It's been a while since I've done a Mage run, but we'll need to take a look at it. I should mention that this patch was, in the words of the devs, focusing a lot on the magic users, and they plan to release another update down the road which focuses on the physical damage users, just adjusting things like that. So expect all these guys to be magic guys. Alchemist getting some, well, not a lot, but it looks impactful enough. Change the attack type of the unstable summoning for his unique and legendary forms. You can see here the golem is firing out those pulses of dark orbs and still doing his giant slam with all the big god Rugal energy going out there. It's pretty cool. Living armor, I can see that already. I can see this big punch coming out. That looks like it's part of an attack string. That's why. The range of combo attacks, thank you very much for that. He's a very stubby guy. The number of spirit flames gained by basic attack and dash is increased. Good. The damage of basically everything. Change the attack type of Soul Knuckles first enhanced level, and the damage of Soul Charge. Adjust the that each enhancement level of Soul Charge to be immune to knockbacks. Interesting. And then Soul Knight, it's the big one. While using a skill in the first enhanced stage, change the Spirit Flame to only consume a portion rather than a full consume. I see. So they're kind of making him a little bit easier to get away with spamming, but I guess the problem there is they realized if you're having to level up the enhancement stages, you want to get to enhancement stage 2 on him, and if you used an ability on stage 1, it just kind of eats all of it and holds you back. So I for a while have said that I didn't understand why Soul Knight still had access to stage 1 enhancements, because you just don't want to use them almost ever. I mean, yes, the stage 2 moves have their own internal cooldown, so you technically, it's kind of like playing Ninja where he has 2 different sets of skills. Soul Knight has 2 different sets of skills basically, or 3 if you want to be really, really particular about it. But his enhancements, there's a 1 enhancement, 2 enhancement. Long story short, he can use first stage enhancements a lot better now. Adjusted the number of attacks to sword. 2 down to 1. Oh, so it doesn't do like a swing down, like a swish down and up again. It just does 1 swing. Interesting. And they've adjusted the attack type. We'll have to check these out at some point. They're a little bit more vague, but pretty cool. Now, I see Warlock down here getting some love. Look at this. These are the needles. What in the world? I'm assuming that the lightning effect just hits any dudes that were struck by them, because, I mean, it would seem as though if it hits a dude, they're gonna get guaranteed. It's like a lightning rod. Like, you've been hit and you've been marked. Receive the lightning. That's insane. Increase the animation speed after completing concentration. They did it. They fight. Can we just acknowledge for a second here? That's me clapping. Can we just acknowledge that the devs for Skul are some of the best devs in the entire business, in the entirety of game development, for listening to the players? This is insane. I've been saying for a while now that one of Warlock's chief issues is that when concentration finishes, he stands there for a second. You can't dodge, you can't get out of it. The best way to do it before was to actually swap into your alternate skull and kind of frame cancel it. But if you cancel too early, it would actually stop the spell from coming out entirely. So you had to be like kind of, you know, on the ball with timing when you do your swap. But now he seems to end a little bit sooner. The player is also now invulnerable during the animation after completing concentration. Insane. So it's free. You can just finish casting and you're not going to get punished for it. This is actually, these two changes alone are all he really needed. Everything else down here is just icing on the cake. These two changes alone have saved him. I'm gonna have to get a Warlock video recorded soon. This is motivating. That's motivating right there. Now the spike, increased skill damage, completing concentration changes the attack type. I'm assuming that if you don't finish it, it still shoots the slow ones like it used to. And this is the demonstration of the of how it changes quite dramatically when fully charged. Cooldown has been increased. That's fair. That's whatever. Spamming something like this would be a little bit much. Increase the speed of the projectiles. Or maybe they're always this fast then. Maybe the enhancement is the lightning. Maybe they're always that fast. The Meteor, reduced skill damage. They've nerfed the Meteor's damage. That's fair, to be honest. With these changes up above, making him immune to being hurt and coming out of his animations quicker, the Meteor would just be like the best button, period. One of the best buttons in the game. This kind of brings the Warlock more in line with the Warrior as well, because the Warrior functions around invulnerability states while concentrating. So now the Warlock is like a proper ranged magic version of the Warrior. Just from what I'm reading alone at the moment. This is pretty cool. Completing concentration increases the skill damage. So they want you to finish it more often than not. Massive cooldown boost though. Change the projectiles to now fly to nearby random enemies. So you no longer have to like aim them. They'll just like come down at dudes. That's pretty interesting. I like that. The skill damage for the orb has been increased. Completing concentration increases the damage. Output is increased depending on the time concentrated. Cooldown adjustment's been increased a little bit. And decreased the duration of the projectile. So they don't linger on the screen as long, which is kind of a damage nerf. But I think that's why they've increased its damage up here, because it doesn't linger and like the duration doesn't stick around for as long. Against bosses like Chimera, it was very potent because Chimera's got such a large body. The orb floats along and gets more time to tick damage on it. So I think this increase in damage is to compensate for that just a little bit. The beam, skill damage increased. Completing concentration, same deal, same deal. Added a knockback effect and an increase in cooldown. So I'm noticing all of the abilities are now better. Just in general, they're stronger, they're faster, he concentrates better, but the cooldowns have been increased to compensate. This will give a little bit of motivation to pick up things like the Ritual Staff, the Prayer of Grace, some Broken Mana Engine, and if you manage to find, say, an Infinite Bone, then you're in business. The Great Warlock increased basic attack damage, wonderful. Adjusted the maximum number of spikes that can appear while concentrating. 1 to 10? What, like 10 at once? So like one spike, it's like 10 spikes at once. That's huge. Increase the damage of spikes while concentrating, pulses and lasers while concentrating. That's all right. Rockstar with his one little change. Holding down the basic attack button will now allow the players to continue using the basic attack. Mummy would like to make a trade offer. Mummy would like to know your location. Mummy would like to rob you blind in the night. Please give this to Mummy as well. Mummy desperately needs it. I understand that there might be some issues with giving it to Mummy because of all the different weapons. And I'm actually going to take a stab in the dark and say that might be why it's difficult for Mummy. Is because technically he has like, what, 10, 12 weapon types, plus his basic pistol that he starts with. And it might be kind of difficult coding-wise to tell the game that no matter what weapon he has, holding the button down should automatically attack with all of them. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But Mummy wants this desperately. The players want this desperately. Their fingers demand it. But this makes a lot of sense. This is a nice change. I like that for Rockstar. Ninja. My goodness, Ninja's got a few things here. So players will now be invulnerable while using a swap skill. Ninja's just... That makes sense, because Ninja is like... It's an ambush. It's a surprise attack. He comes out of the smoke. I like it. Increase the damage of everything. So he just gets a damage increase of everything here. I would like it if they said how much, like a percent, like, you know, 10% across the board, 20% across the board. Wheel Shuriken got a 10%, Shadow Clone got a 5%. Stuff like that. But this alone, it's fine. We'll notice the differences to this when we actually get in and play these characters. Ninja Master, his legendary. The cooldown of Flash Rampage has been reduced. Change the attack type of Flash Phantom Slash. Curious how that's going to play out. Damage of Shuriken, cooldown adjustment. Whoa, that's big. Now, the Exploding Shuriken, I believe, is his aerial Shuriken attack, where he throws them on the ground, they blow up. That's 9 seconds. That's way more spammable now. That has 3 charges normally. The damage of Phantom Cross, thank you, will now be invulnerable while using Phantom Cross. This is massive. They said they were mostly adjusting magic dudes. What's happening here? Increase the damage of Transform Phantom Wheel Shuriken. Oh, so becoming the wheel. The damage is increased on becoming the wheel. Dude, ninja buffs? I'm happy. Look. I tried my best not to spoil, alright? I tried my best not to jump ahead and spoil myself. It's Arclich. It's Arclich buffs. Buffs? I'm seeing increased. I'm just seeing increase the damage of chains spawn near enemies every 10 seconds. Thank you. Increase the damage of his combo attack, so his basic attack has been boosted. Increase the animation speed of all skills and Death Trap. Thank you. Oh my god. Thank you, Southpaw. That is fantastic news. That is wonderful news. And the damage of Death Trap increased. Thank you. Old Seal is here again, hopefully. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm jumping the gun. Maybe it's just a nice, in between. Maybe it's like, compromise. Either way, animation speed up and damage increase is amazing. I wish they had like a little animation window here to show us Death Trap in motion now that it's been changed, but I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to getting on. Arclich is my favorite skull in the game. When they nerfed Death Trap by making it a baked-in thing that he does every minute or so, I was a little sad, but still remained hopeful. I still think Arclich is very fun. Defeating enemies with Soul Steal will now amplify magic attack rather than increasing it. Are you insane? That's massive. So normally, if you do Soul Steal, it builds charges. And when you hit dudes with Soul Steal, that's that quick little poke, the little jab, that's on a very short cooldown. It gives you a magic damage increase. Just flat increase, like regular, like, 5% damage, 5% damage. It's a flat thing. It's not 5%, but you know what I mean. And if you kept hitting dudes, it kept stacking. Whenever you take damage, you lose half your stacks. So you've really got to play well and not get touched to keep that stack going. But now it's an amplify effect. So it's going to scale even better, assuming that you've got good items to begin with. The damage of March of Death has been increased. That's very nice. I like that. March of Death was kind of underutilized because more often than not, the way that the ability works is that maybe one chain hits, one enemy. And if, you've got all these chains going across the screen, and maybe they're only going to get once, unless you're a really big body dude, like some of the Act 2 guys, and maybe you get 2 or 3 chains to hit, or Chimera, once again, being a big body. But the sisters, the hero fight, sometimes March of Death just felt like it was a lot of wasted damage. This might be the change it needs. And adjusted the chains to spawn more tightly while using March of Death. I should just be reading forward before I say anything. That fixes the problem on its own. That if they're tight and close together, multiple chains hit. Thank you. Adjusted the chains that spawn while using Prison of the Damned to be recognized as one attack rather than recognizing each chain. That's pretty good. So now it's more tight. They're tightening the chains up and increase the damage of Deathly Chill. Thank you. Well, we know that Deathly Chill is going to get a speed increase. They're all getting speed increases. This is fantastic. Davey Jones. Increase the explosion damage of both normal and special cannonballs. Just a universal buff to everything he does. Fantastic. Increase the explosion damage of enhanced normal cannonballs. Lovely. So you're encouraged to not just sit around and waste time and only load in enhanced special ability balls, which is a sentence that sounds kind of weird if you have no context, but the special ability balls were like his bread and butter. You need to have those be his enhanced cannonballs. And if you ended up accidentally or, you're not paying attention and you enhance the normal cannonball, it kind of felt like a waste. This might be, not better than the special ones, but just enough so that even if you do it, you think to yourself, it doesn't matter. It's just good raw damage. This will be fine. Increase the reload speed rate depending on the attack speed. Attack speed increases his reload time. Ooh. Yo, give me some Pain and Despair Davey Jones, please. Interesting. And then the damage of everything goes up. He just got universal buffs across the board for everything he does. I didn't think Davey was that weak to begin with. I do think he was a tiny, eensy bit clunky sometimes, depending on what loadout you had. Because Davey mostly benefits from raw attack damage boosts. He doesn't benefit too much from things that increase damage in alternate ways. Things like Thief Armor doesn't really work for him. Items like that, Thief Armor, Gunpowder Sword, a lot of the on-hit stuff, like Thief's Black Steel Dagger was hard for him to wield. He liked things like the 2 axes, the swords, all that kind of stuff. Even things like arms was kind of hard for him because the arms effect triggers right in front of your body. So a lot of the really good physical items have arms on them. So you were kind of like discouraged from some of those as well. You might have a dead inscription on your hands. Two in arms is fine, but you weren't wanting to go any higher than 2 because you can't really benefit unless you want to stand point blank against your enemies, which you could do. That's fine, but it was a little bit of a waste. Some of these might be really nice to make him feel a bit more powerful in the hands of the players. Yaksha. Alright, I'm ready. Increase the size of the domain. Amazing change already. Please tell me that there's more to this than meets the eye. Adjusted the domain to inflict a stun effect on enemies who are caught inside while the skill is being activated. So when he has a bubble, so he pops the domain, the bubble comes out, and everyone inside gets stunned immediately. Kind of like the magical bead stun, I'm assuming. Just a little AoE pulse. Boom, there you go, you're stunned. Incoming damage is reduced by 30% in the form of Rakshasa. That is exactly what people have been asking for a long time now. Citing the Ghoul as a good example of a tank who is designed to just get hit. Because Ghoul's fundamental design is to get hit and then recover that life. They leaned into it. They're all like, you know what? He's big, he's beefy. One of his big flaws in the original release for him was he couldn't heal, but he still got big. He got huge. Made him a huge target. And rather than, remove that flavor from him, they're like, well, screw it. What if he does get big? What if he does get hit? What if he doesn't care that he gets hit? What if that's the point? It was an amazing idea. Hopefully this just encourages further. Stomping, which was activated while using a skill in the form of Rakshasa, will no longer damage enemies. Huh? I don't understand. Stomping, which was activated while using a skill, will no longer damage enemies. Is this because of the hit stun, the stun effect? Is that why? I mean, I'm loving that the damage has been increased on everything that he does. He needs this. That was something that my chief complaint was that the Yaksha felt like he was hitting with a wet noodle, and you had to load him with so much damage just to make him comparable to someone else. It's like, why would I use Yaksha when Davey Jones exists? And they've just finished buffing Davey Jones's damage. So Yaksha was worse than Davey Jones's damage, in my opinion. Why would I use Yaksha when I can take Berserker, Minotaur, Shield Skull, Ent? Every other power skull in the game does more damage than Yaksha. And he takes so much more effort to get anything to happen. This might be what he needs. Less damage taken, baked in stun effect, more damage across the board. The stomping is the only thing I'm a little bit confused on. Maybe it's been too long since I've played Yaksha, but we'll see. I need to get in and take a look at Yaksha now. Items. I didn't expect item changes. Ceremonial Daggers had a 5% crit increase. The Victory Baton has had a damage increase. We expected this. They said they were going to adjust magic. The Sun Wagon increased the size and damage of the fire. Nice. And the Trail of Fire's chance to burn has been increased. Just nice. The Charred Yamada increased the chance of basic attacks inflicting burn. Damage goes up. Chest of Flames, cooldown adjustments from 2 to 1 second. Chest of Flames is one of the best arson items that you can get, so having the cooldown be halved on its internal clock is just ridiculous. Maybe arson just got the buffs it needs. Aftershock, new effect. New effect. Stunning an enemy increases skill cooldown speed by 60% for 5 seconds? Okay, I see. Aftershock just became a very dangerous item. There are quite a few skulls in the game that do not focus on stun, but they have stun in their toolkit, and this now gives much more incentive to use those tools better. For a start, we just saw that Yaksha, when he transforms and activates the domain, he stuns enemies. So if he has Aftershock, he activates the domain and then just gets a 60% cooldown speed increase for 5 seconds, which is long enough to start rotating a few hits and start doing some stuff while they're stunned. Minotaur, same deal. Who I'm really curious about now is Alchemist with his stun flask, because those flasks have charges. So that means all he has to do is stun one dude, and the cooldown speed increases. And then he throws another flask, and he refreshes the effect so that he keeps this 5-second buff active for quite a while. If you pair this with, say, the Mage's Mana Bracelet, the Prayer of Grace, the Broken Mana Engine, you can get some really big cooldown speed increases, and it's all just piggybacking off of stunning enemies. I like that. The Sigma leg, as I like to call it, the Stigma leg, cooldown adjustment, damn. Damn, from 2 seconds to 0.5. May have to take a look into this. I don't use that item very much. It just didn't feel very impactful to me. Maybe now it will be. The Sphere of Sniping adjusted the magic arrows to now penetrate enemies. Yay, that's the change it needed. It had the hunter problem. Now it's been fixed by the looks of it. Increase the damage of magic arrows and reduce the preparation time so they don't linger around too long, and then, you know, like you do the swap, they appear, they take too long. They were kind of clunky. This might be what they need. And the choker, this was the opposite of the Sphere of Sniping. This just did the same thing in another way. Increase the damage and reduce the preparation time. Yeah, cool. This is nice. Invisible Knife, new effect, 10% crit chance. Don't change Invisible Knife on me. I just recorded a run like a day ago where I used Invisible Knife in my Gambler run. Spoilers, by the way. I'm gonna probably get this video out before that. I have a Gambler run coming out. Damn, I've spoiled it. If you're watching this, you now know what's coming up next for Skul. Increase the damage of additional magic damage. What? So Invisible Knife gives you crit chance and inherently boosts the damage of additional magic damage. What, other effects or something? I'm confused. How does that... We'll find out. Burning Scripture, new effect, increase magic attack by 30%. Cool. Thanks. It's another staff, but you know, better in a sense, I guess, for arson. Good. The Mana Gauntlets adjusted the magic attack, increased duration time from 2 to 3 seconds. Yay! An increase in duration. We like this. Adjusted the magic attack increase for the basic from 3 to 5. Adjusted magic attack increase rate from 60 to 75. Very nice. The gauntlets, the Thanos glove is now pretty nice for a lot of these speedy magic boys. I know characters like Clown get a lot of good value from things like this. Clown kind of liked having a lot of these attack speed and on-hit effects. You could pair Thief Armor and Mana Gauntlets, and technically it all works because Clown has hybridized damage, so all of these things go together very nicely. Holy Footsteps, I see an item that I almost never take down here. Adjusted the skill cooldown speed rate after dashing to 10%, and max magic attack increase rate when fully stacking the item effect 10%. I may still not take it, but it's nice that they're thinking about it. Elder Ent's Gratitude, we never take this. The barrier value's been boosted to 50 from 40, and the physical and magic attack increased from 40 to 50%. It's okay, right? This is okay. I would argue that this is an item that is worth taking if you're already planning to do runs where you're not getting hit very much anyway. Like, you know, God forbid you're doing an Omen 3. Then this isn't that bad. 50% damage for physical and magical, it's nice. I still don't think that in most circumstances you should be taking this for after the Yggdrasil fight. There's normally always something better, whether it's a Quint or another item. I mean, even the Seed is pretty good. The Seed is my go-to take if there's just nothing else there. And it used to be very hard to get. Now I think it's just guaranteed. The Archbishop Scriptures, another item that I sometimes take, but admittedly, I'm gonna say right now before I read it, the Scriptures issue is that you get it from Joan, so its intended use is to help you with the dad fight. The problem with the dad fight and the Scriptures is it puts a stationary beam on the ground. Dad and the word stationary don't go together very well. Dad doesn't like being stationary. He runs around, he flips, he jumps, he slashes. He's all over the screen. He is as mobile as it gets. He's like Spider-Man on the screen. So putting a beam down that sits there for a second isn't doing that much. And by the time you get the Scriptures, your build is probably already finished anyway. You don't have any room to squeeze it in. So it's a bit of a gamble to take it. The rarity's been bumped from unique to legendary, which speaks highly in what they regard it as now. Increase the duration time, but decrease its size. So it's on the screen for longer, but the beam is smaller. Upon using a skill, punish a nearby enemy to deal magic damage. 30 seconds eternal cooldown. The punishment moves towards a nearby... That's why. It's an orbital laser that moves around the ground. Enemies hit by it receive 10% more amp magic damage for 10 seconds, maximum 50. Okay. So... does it not actually deal damage on its own? Oh, it does. Deals magic damage, but also stacks up more magic damage taken. Depending on the movement speed of this thing, because once again, it's intended to be fighting Dad. He's the only real threat after Joan. If this beam actually moves at a decent enough speed to kind of stick to Dad and make it so that you realistically can get 50%, max stacks, this will become a very big game changer, because that's an amplify effect. 50% amp? This is the kind of thing you normally have to invest pretty deep into wisdom or a dark ability to get, and that's one item doing this. Pretty sexy. Dark Priest Robe, new effect. Crit rate increased by 30% while the barrier is active. 30% crit rate while the barrier is active. I didn't think that Dark Priest Robe needed anything new given to it. It's just a really good item on its own. Even better now. Even better. Take Dark Priest Robe. It's a good item. I don't take it sometimes because I'm making silly content where I do a lot of really high risk, high reward, big damage stuff. But whenever I make a very down-to-earth, grounded, normal build that has a bit of defense and a bit of damage in it, I would always recommend Dark Priest Robe. It is a lifesaver. And now it's a good comeback mechanic. I like it. Freezing an enemy triggers the Frost Witch's magic. Oh, triggers. Did I say freezes? Freezing an enemy triggers the Frost Witch's magic to deal magic damage to surrounding enemies and inflict them with freeze. Okay. I like this so far. Upon dealing damage to the enemy with the Frost Witch's magic attack is increased by 8% for 12 seconds. Stacks to 80%, so 10 stacks. Pretty good, pretty good. This now makes it very valuable for a Frostboy run, or even an alchemist that's throwing freezing flasks. Not bad, not bad. I like. It's better than the previous effect. The previous effect was kind of not that good, but now it's been adjusted a little bit. It might see better use, especially in big rooms full of waves of enemies where you can get multiple dudes frozen at once and get this effect stacking really quickly. Circulator. When using a skill, the cooldown of a different skill on cooldown decreases by 2 seconds. Wait, what? Oh, so the Silent Cries effect. So it has, when using a skill, the cooldown of a different skill that's on cooldown decrease. So it has Silent Cries effect. Kind of nuts. Yeah, all right. The Golden Whip increases gold gain by 15% and increases crit rate by 25% for 4 seconds when hit. So it no longer has to deal with what life percentage you're at. The flat 15% gold gain is very nice, by the way. Bringing it a bit more in line with things like the Gold Incense Burner. And crit rate increase when hit. That's not bad. That's not bad. So it no longer affects magic damage at all. This is just a universal item now that you could take on anyone, which is very good. I think that the gold items should be a bit like that. Gold Incense, Carlane's Insignia, and the Whip all being, and the Mask. I can't forget Dio's Mask. All being like that is very good. The only gold item that I remember now that might be specific is the Gold Sword is physical only. We'll see. Demonomicon. Now players can gain it through a new item called Prohibited Book. Excuse me? It's now a legendary? Item effect changes. Magic attack increases by 60%. That's the same as it has. Upon using a skill 4 times, one of the 3 spells written in the Demonomicon is triggered for 10 seconds. Oh, that sounds fun. I like it. They've made it an actual big deal. You would think originally that the Demonomicon, right? But like, the Necronomicon references, all that kind of stuff. If there's an Evil Dead reference in here, if one of these spells pays any homage to the Necronomicon, I'm going to lose my mind. It's going to be amazing. But the Demonomicon, it sounds like it would be this high-tier, uber-legendary, massively endgame thing, and it kind of just is a nice item on its own. It's not, god-tier. This might make it very fun to use. Very fun to use indeed. I like that. I like that. So that means we're going to have this Prohibited Book. New items. There it is. Prohibited Book. Anyway, Golden Wand. Oh, look at that. They did it. Every 100 gold spent increases magic attack by 1%, stack 70%. So we now have a magic equivalent to the Golden Sword. There is a Golden Wand. I spoke too soon. I should just be reading. That's fantastic. Now, gold builds don't have to feel too streamlined. Because before, the issue was the Whip was the magic version of the sword, and the Whip was kind of crap, right? Which is why they've completely overhauled the effect. It wasn't very impactful. It didn't feel all that good to use. You only took it for the inscriptions if you really wanted it. I don't think anyone took it for the actual effect. But now, you will definitely take this for the effect. The Golden Wand, That is a stellar effect. The sword, the gold sword alone doesn't feel like it should be a rare. That feels like it should be a unique item. It's definitely on par with things like Master Fighter, which are still unique items. Golden Sword is insane. Prohibited Book increases magic attack by 15%, modest. Obtain 1 page of the spellbook each time you deal damage to an enemy with the skill. Okay. Max 3 pages from the same target. 500 pages of the book changes into Demonomicon. So it's kind of like a... I'm assuming this is trying to be the Kyrian for magic, because people made the argument that Dwarf, the Quintessence Dwarf, was the magic equivalent to a Kyrian effect, where it transforms. And it was kind of sad, because physical builds even got the Blood Drinker Sword, which transforms when you've, bled enough times. So magic didn't have a lot of transforming item viability, Dwarf was kind of it. I know there's other fun things, like they get access to Fairy Tale, but then physical has Masterpiece, which is pretty impactful. Some of those Masterpiece effects are insane, and I would argue that Masterpiece as a whole is stronger than Fairy Tale. But maybe this new Demonomicon change, getting this big legendary, is going to be the change we need. Because the magic attack increased by 15%, that screams Kyrian to me. That screams Forbidden Sword. And it seems all you have to do is deal damage with a skill. So you could, once again, probably easier. Well, I shouldn't say easier, because it does require 500 pages. But the idea is, if you can hit an enemy with 2 skills before they die, then every enemy counts as 2 in a sense. So, you could get this done, hopefully, relatively easy. If you, for example, use, say, I don't know, a Meteor with Warlock and everyone dies from that one hit, at least they all count as 1, right? But if you use multiple abilities, then you'll build this faster. So Skul, Little Skul might be one of the best options to keep, because his Skull Toss, while doing a lot of damage, you can spam it. The cooldown isn't a big deal. That's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to how we can weave this and who's going to be good for building it quickly as opposed to slowly. The Grace of Leonia. Gain a 15 HP barrier every 30 seconds. Wait a minute. There's an item in the Skull mod. There's an unreleased item that does this. Magic attack increased by 50%, and a barrage of orbs shoots out at nearby enemies every 5 seconds while the barrier lasts, dealing magic damage. Interesting. This is very reminiscent of an unreleased item that you can pick up in the mod. This item can only be obtained by defeating Chapter 4 boss, the Leonia Grand Priest, so Joan drops this. Oh, so now Joan has her second unique item, because most of the bosses have 2, and Joan seemingly only had the Scriptures. Oh, that's cool. They've given Joan something else. Pretty good. I mean, I would argue that this might be more useful than the Beam, even if the Beam's been buffed. Maybe it's... like, the Beam is all or nothing aggression. This is more defense. It's kind of cool. They've given her, like, a... because that makes sense, she's got the big beams that are, like, all offense, and now the Grace is emulating her bubble that she hides behind with the 2 pillars. That's cute. I like that. Quintessences. Wow. The damage of Wraith, Dwarf, King Dwarf, Raven summoned by Raven Lord. The range of Archdemon's max distance required increased. Damage of Imp, damage of Balrog. Quintessence is just getting buffed across the board. Fantastic. These are all guys that deserve it too. I forgot for a while there that Imp even existed. I don't see Imp, and if I do see Imp, it's invisible to my eyes. I don't notice Imp. May have to use Imp. I do feel like the Raven soldiers did need a bit of a buff. They didn't feel... it was more like you're waiting for the soldiers to appear as means to an end so that you can activate Raven Lord and get the most out of those little black hole effects that they trigger. It didn't feel like the soldiers were on their own, were like... it felt like they were tickling, they're there. They're helping. They're doing something. If you remember, back in the good old days when we used to summon a bunch of little baby Ents using Legendary Tree, Legendary Ent Boy, and he would summon all the little baby seeds, and they did no damage. I'm not saying it's that bad, but Raven soldiers kind of give me that feel, like, really poor quality summons that just don't do much damage. Dark ability, Silent Cries. When using a skill, the cooldown of a different skill on cooldown decreases by %. They nerfed Silent Cries, my guys. The Skull build is dead. Actually, it's not, because as we saw, I'm going to very quickly just pop back up here. Where was it? Where was that effect that they made? There we go. They baked it into Manatech Circulator. I'm like, why does this have Silent Cries effect? It doesn't go to 3 seconds. It still stays as 2 seconds. So Manatech Circulator is now the thing you want to grab. to do the old Skul build. Because now, Silent Cries will only reduce cooldown based on a %, so it's not going to be that easy. Like, it's not a flat number. Little Skul was broken because you could make it a flat number. Expected. This is like when they nerfed the dash build for Pike so that he couldn't, you know, dash borderline infinitely and just be silly across the screen. This is fine. This is fine. New curses. Obtaining, ambition. Obtain all of the following effects based on the amount of core quartz in your possession. So these are based on how many of the resources you haven't spent. Okay, so 1 or more. Increase physical and magical attack by 5% per core quartz. That's decent. That'll stack a little bit. Max life increased. Skill cooldown speed increased 5% per. And then an amplify 2% per. Pretty good. So let's just assume for a sec, let's lowball it. Because if you get this at the end of Act 1, and then you just decide, you know what, I'm not buying any more dark abilities. I'm just going to save all my core quartz. Let's just start doing some small numbers here. Because you can get, I think the idea is it's about 7 per act. So if this is a curse, we assume that we spend 1. So Act 2, 3, and 4 will give you 7 each, so 21. And then assuming that you got 7 in Act 1, which maybe you won't, but I said lowball, let's highball it. And assume that we're going to get 7 per act. So what did I say? 21 after the other 3 acts and 6 left over because you spent 1 to buy it and you had 7 in Act 1. You have 27 of these. So 27, 5% multiplied 27 ways, 3 HP multiplied 27. Oh my god. I mean, yeah, if you build an all or nothing like that, and the fact that max life is getting increased, skill cooldown is getting increased, it's like the ring. They're giving you everything. Damage, life, and skill cooldown. All the 3 things that a healthy growing boy needs for a good breakfast, right? And then amplify damage on top of that. So everything it's already given you, it just says, have more, have more. This is going to be fun. The ambition run? Oh, they should have called it the motivated run because I want to give it a whirl. That sounds fun. Stages. Change the summoning animation. By the way, I realize that that's an insane highball to assume 27 of these core courses, but you could spend a little bit in between. Like, you could buy Kingslayer and not feel the negatives that much. You could buy, like, 1 stacks. Like, if you wanted to buy more curses or any of the 1 stackers, you could do that. And this wouldn't be affected that badly. Anyway, change the summoning animation of the Dimensionist. I never knew his name was Dimensionist. Now we know. This little summoner guy. He looks like an Aranka. If you're a fan of Bleach and you know who Wonderweiss is, I'm just saying, you could look up Wonderweiss in his release state and then take a look at the... Come on, man. I'm getting vibes. Etc. Issue fixing. Fix an issue regarding the buttons not functioning properly in the Dark Ability menu. Adjust the functions in the Dark Ability menu with binding of the buttons. And adjusted the B button to now close the menu. Maybe they just watched one too many of my videos where I was fumbling the buttons and I kept going to erase my abilities and do silly things like that. But I'm assuming a few people have had the same issue. Bug fixes. Let's see what's been changed. Fixed an issue regarding crit attack that could be activated to fix damage. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but that's... Crit attack could also be activated to fix damage? That's kind of nuts. The Jagamon Thorn would have been happy with that. Fixed an issue regarding some quintessence's abnormal damage output. I think I immediately know what this is. I'm calling out Mr. Bakanudo again. If you haven't seen, I never did this. I never got a chance to do this. It just wasn't on my radar. It should have been. It's a really fun thing that I think you can't do anymore. But if you haven't, check out Mr. Bakanudo's videos where he uses the One Punch Man build, right? It basically involved using the Steel Golem Quintessence, and he was able to manipulate a little internal timer bug that allowed it to ramp damage insanely so. And it turned the Steel Golem Fist Quintessence into a genuine, like infinite potential damage source, where you could just walk up to a boss, throw the fist, and do like 200,000 damage and blow it up immediately. He has got videos that explain how it's possible, how it works. Go check him out. Go check out those videos, because it seems like I'm not going to be able to show you what this is anymore. So go check out Mr. Bakanudo's abnormal quintessence stuff. The guy who made the mod, same guy who made the mod for Skul. Go check him out, please. Fixed an issue regarding the Great Sage's time cooldown not activating. Really? I never noticed. Fixed an issue regarding the effect of Great Sage's time could be activated even though the requirement of 4 skills and cooldown was not met. Oh, that's what... Okay, I see what they mean now. fixed an issue in which the player could receive damage as the gate closed on the way to the Chapter 4 boss. Receive damage as the gate closed? So when you mean like when you jump up into the arena? Strange. And Chinese translations. They haven't mentioned fixing the issue where you can actually just leave the Joan fight by jumping on the platform. Unless it's already been fixed and it was shadow fixed, I didn't notice it. In any case, let me zoom back up here real quick. That is an insanely awesome patch notes right there. I love it. There's a lot of changes in there that I'm really, really happy about. I mean, I don't think there's anything that I'm disappointed with. These are all fantastic. The changes to skulls, wonderful. I am particularly looking forward to checking out Great Warlock. I love the way Warlock plays. It just felt clunky, but the changes might make him the same way that Warrior, right? I always liked Warrior, but I hated the way that Warrior was just guaranteed to take too much damage and get beat up just for trying to play his own game. This change might make Warlock as fun as Warrior and make him a force in this game. He might just become top tier because of these two changes alone. Let alone everything else, these two changes are the kind of changes that made Warrior go from being a D tier to an S tier overnight, right? That's how easy it is to break some of this stuff. In addition to that, Ninja, for some reason, got a lot of love. Archlich, my bae, I love it. And then all these item changes, the Demonomicon, the changes to things like the Thanos gloves, Arson items getting a buff. Love it, love it. A lot of stuff here. The new items, the Quint changes, and of course, the Ambition Curse. I'm looking forward to checking that out. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this very, very rushed, very half-assed little breakdown of these patch notes and just my overall thoughts as to what I'm seeing here. I'm half motivated to make this because I know whenever patch notes for these things come out, people always ask me in the comments, hey Beelz, have you seen the patch notes? What do you think? What do you think? And I normally have to say, yeah, I took a look, they look cool. And I'll normally mention them in the next Skul video, but I'm in the middle of doing a run, I forget what I'm saying, I get sidetracked, I never get all my thoughts out at once, so this is just a good motivator to come in and make a quick video. But with all of that said and done, I've got to get out of here. I hope you guys also enjoyed looking at these patch notes with me, and let me know in the comments what you're most excited about, what changes here that you think are the most impactful or what you've been asking for, and if they've missed anything, what would you like to see in a future patch? Because they did mention that they'll be doing another patch soon addressing a lot of the physical skulls, physical items, and just more of the physical damage side of the game. This one is specifically to address magic. So get your opinions out there. I'm thinking that Mummy's going to get hold button to attack, right? I'm thinking Mummy's going to get that. That's what I want to see. And I will see you all next time, guys. Have a good one.